Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unbound. I am Beth Curry. This is our last Through the Fog episode, the practical informational chapters where I kind of step back from narrative and just talk real shit about navigating dementia care. This one, it's about hope. It's about finding meaning when everything feels like loss, about the moments that make this brutal journey bearable. Because the truth is, there's days when dementia feels like nothing but devastation, like when my mom doesn't recognize me, or when our conversations kind of circle endlessly, or when I leave Willow Grove feeling hollowed out and wondering what the fucking point is. But then there's moments that kind of change everything, like a sudden story about my dad's proposal, or a shared song, or just an unexpected laugh, or a hand squeeze that says this was a good visit. Yeah. So today I'm going to talk about those, how to find and create those moments, how to redefine what meaningful interaction means, how to take care of yourself so you don't burn out completely, and how to find purpose in a journey nobody would ever choose. Am I right? This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending that everything's fine. It's about survival, finding fragments of light in the thick-ass fog that I talk so much about, so that you can keep showing up. Like last time, I won't be reading this full chapter the way that, feedback said. Shorten it up. Don't read the whole boring ass chapter, and, just take out the key points. And that's what I'm going to do. So this is just basically going to be discussion. So we're going to start with the moments that matter. Okay. So I'll tell you about a breakthrough moment that I had with Mom. I got to Willow Grove and I found her pretty friggin' agitated, convinced that someone had stolen her purse. And I was trying to gently redirect her when a spring thunderstorm rolled in and rain was pelting the windows. And Mom stopped mid-sentence, totally captured by the sound. "I love rain," she says. She was clear and present. And then she said, "Your father proposed to me in the rain. Did I ever tell you that?" She hadn't. I don't think it's true. But for the next 20 minutes, she told me the whole story with this clarity that had been absent for months, and her agitation went away. And I glimpsed my mom through a momentarily clear window, even if it's, again, confabulation. I don't know. These are the types of moments that absolutely matter. Those unexpected connections and the brief clearings, they don't negate the difficulty, but they illuminate it with like this meaning and purpose, right? That kind of re-energizes you as a care partner or a caregiver. So there's a shift that I think you need to make, and that's to celebrate small victories. So in early dementia stages, I focused on what Mom couldn't do anymore. The losses and the decline, like super negative stuff to have to focus on. I guess that was a choice, though, that I was focusing on the negative stuff. I didn't realize that there was much positive to focus on because this loss was just beginning for me, right? It prevented me from recognizing what remained intact. So I think that you need to remind yourself, as I often remind myself, start celebrating when your person remembers a name or a face, completes part of a familiar task independently, expresses a preference clearly, responds to music or art, connects with others even briefly. Last Christmas, I decided, so my mom's vision is really, really impaired, but I decided to buy some blank cards, like cardstock that can be folded into greeting cards. And before Christmas, Mom and I, we had a little painting party, and she painted Christmas cards for people. And she really, really liked it, and it was fun. But yeah, the first time Mom visited our house after moving to Willow Grove, she got confused and agitated after 30 minutes wanting to go home. And I considered that a failure. But looking back, she had recognized our home initially. She commented on cruise height and she hummed along to a song on the radio. And I fixated on the difficult ending and missed all the victories within it. And that's the point. You need to stop doing that. I've learned to notice and celebrate the smaller wins. When she recognizes crew without prompting, that's huge. And when she recalls a detail from her past unprompted, that's cause for celebration. When she laughs at a joke, that's a gift. It's not about lowering standards. It's about recognizing that the metrics for the good days have fundamentally changed. Finding unexpected joy is another critical piece. Joy doesn't announce itself with fanfare and dementia. It comes in the quieter moments when you least expect it. So you can create conditions where joy might actually come out. So if you played music from different periods of their life, or you look through photo albums together, bringing simple sensory pleasures like soft fabric or a smell that they like, spend time outside when possible, and engage in simple creative activities without pressure. Again, the whole painting at Christmas thing. One of my most treasured recent memories, I was humming "You Are My Sunshine" while looking for something in Mom's closet, and all of a sudden, her voice joined mine, uncertain at first, but then strong, as the lyrics kind of came back. And for those few minutes, we weren't patient and visitor. We were just two people sharing a song, finding unexpected harmony. Another time, I brought lavender potpourri stuff, and when she held it to her nose, her face transformed with pleasure. This smells like clean laundry when I was a girl. That simple sensory experience transported her to a happy memory, creating joy neither of us anticipated, right? So these moments can't be forced or scheduled, but we can create conditions where they are more likely to occur. And never underestimate the gift of laughter, of all the therapies available for dementia, or literally life in general. Laughter might be the most underrated because it creates connection. It releases tension and it reminds us of our shared humanity. My mom always had dry wit. I feared this would disappear completely with dementia, but her spontaneous humor has diminished, but her appreciation for humor remains. So, several months ago, a maintenance worker dropped a tray outside Mom's room with this tremendous crash. I jumped, startled. Mom simply turned toward the noise and deadpanned, "I don't remember ordering a symphony." The worker laughed, I laughed, and Mom smiled, pleased with the response. In that moment, I saw the mom I've always known, quick-witted and slightly mischievous. Humor can transform difficult care situations. Before my dad died, when Mom refused medication, he'd approach it with gentle playfulness. He'd say, "These little pills are having a party and they need somewhere to go." I think it's so cute. That often worked better than logical explanations. The key is to never laugh at confusion or difficulties. Just laugh with them. Laugh alongside them. Find the absurdity in the situation and not in the person. So, redefining meaningful interaction. One of the most challenging adjustments in this journey, redefining what constitutes meaningful time together. The deep conversations we once shared, the activities we enjoyed, many are no longer possible in their previous forms. So you need to expand your definition of meaningful. Sitting in comfortable silence, holding hands, looking through a magazine together without discussion, sharing a simple snack, watching birds at a bird feed, or just being present, even when words fail. Early in Mom's time at Willow Grove, I felt compelled to fill every visit with conversation or activity. If we weren't actively engaged in something, I considered the visit unsuccessful. That pressure made visits exhausting for both of us. My breakthrough came during a visit when Mom was kind of tired. Instead of trying to engage her, I simply sat beside her and held her hand, and we watched birds outside her window together. Occasionally, we'd comment on a colorful visitor, but mostly we sat in companionable silence. As I was preparing to leave, Mom squeezed my hand and said this was a good visit. Her contentment helped me understand that presence itself, and not so much the activity or the conversation, was what mattered the most. And this realization liberated me from pressure to accomplish something during each visit. So now I come prepared with possibilities rather than expectations, right? I might bring a photo album or show her pictures on my social media, or we'd do a craft or bring her a favorite snack or whatever, but I remain open to what Mom needs that day, even if it's just, quiet companionship. I just want to get real here for a minute about burnout, because the statistics are sobering. Family caregivers for people with dementia experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, and physical health problems than non-caregivers. I discovered this the hard way. About 6 months after my dad died, taking on this responsibility for mom's care while managing my own grief, I kind of found myself with alarming symptoms. Heart palpitations, anxiety, I was fainting, insomnia, I had major mood swings. My body was sending messages that my mind was ignoring, like I was burning out. Some of the warning signs to watch for common physical symptoms like headaches and digestive issues and frequent illness, emotional changes like irritability, anxiety, and tearfulness, sleep disturbances, withdrawal from activities once enjoyed, feelings of resentment toward the person with dementia, difficulty making decisions or concentrating, and changes in appetite or weight. For me, the first sign appeared in my writing, or rather its absence. Writing had always been my sanctuary. When weeks passed without opening my laptop, it should have been a red flag. Instead, I just told myself I was too busy. Other signs that followed: declining invitations from friends because socializing seemed exhausting to me. I was skipping my morning exercise because I was too tired, or I was, finding myself in tears over very minor frustrations. Um, the breaking point for me, I was, running on minimal sleep, and mom had asked me the same question for the 12th time in an hour. Something in me snapped. I didn't speak harshly, but I withdrew emotionally, going through the motions while feeling completely disconnected. And driving home, I realized that I couldn't go on that way, not for my sake and certainly not for hers. You want to create sustainable care patterns, and doing that saved me. So after my burnout wake-up call, I made significant changes. I established a sustainable visiting pattern. Mondays were like our time, and then weekends for special visits. The consistency helped both of us. Mom began anticipating Monday with Beth, and I could plan the rest of my life around this commitment, although it was temporary because it was just for while I was writing this book. I identified non-negotiable self-care practices like sleep and exercise and some form of creative expression. When these basics are in place for me, my resilience increases dramatically. When they slip, I'm a lot more vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. And I also kind of developed these transition rituals. So after each visit, I would take a few minutes in my car before driving away, sometimes to cry, sometimes to write notes on my phone, sometimes to text a friend, sometimes just to breathe deeply and consciously shift my focus. And the small practice kind of helped me actually honor the emotions that these visits kind of bring up without carrying them into the rest of my day. I think building a support network also is non-negotiable. No one should ever have to navigate this journey alone. So intentionally cultivating relationships that provide different support, like join a dementia caregiver support group in person or online, identifying friends who can provide different types of support, practical help, emotional support, welcome distraction. You want to do this outside of your family members because friends are kind of a different outlet. Develop positive relationships with healthcare providers and facility staff, and consider professional support like a therapist or a care manager when needed. I resisted joining a support group for a while because I believed my experience was too unique, or hearing other stories would increase my anxiety. But when I finally attended a virtual support group for adult children of parents with dementia, I was stunned by the immediate sense of being understood. People knew these situations I described, and they had felt isolating and shameful to me, but, they knew them and they offered practical suggestions, and, they normalized the complex emotions that I had been trying to suppress. Professional support sometimes becomes necessary, not as a luxury, but as essential. Several months after Dad died, I realized I was struggling to process not just his death, but the anticipatory grief related to Mom's decline. Uh, Therapy with someone who specialized in caregiver support provided tools specific to my situation. She helped me recognize that my feelings, including the occasional relief, resentment, and guilt, were normal responses to an abnormal situation and not character flaws. Letting go without giving up. So that's the greatest challenge, I think, of this journey, finding this balance between acceptance and hope. learning to let go of what was without giving up on what might still be. Acceptance doesn't mean approving of the disease or surrendering to despair at all. It means acknowledging reality as it is, which paradoxically creates more space for genuine connection. My journey toward acceptance hasn't been linear. I've moved back and forth between denial and anger and bargaining and depression many times, kind of like when I'm pumping gas into my SUV. I go through all those stages. Then too, some days I still, rail against the injustice of this damn disease. But I found that my most peaceful, meaningful interactions with mom come when I fully accept where she is on that particular day. So when I enter Willow Grove without expectations of who she'll be or what she'll remember, I can meet her authentically in whatever she's experiencing. And this doesn't mean I've given up hope for good days, or for moments of connection, or for flashes of her old self shining through. It just kind of means that I've stopped requiring those moments for the visit to be worthwhile. I hope that makes sense. I've learned that mom is still mom, even on her most confused days, even when, the words don't come out for her and when she's not sure of my name. Preserving dignity and agency matters immensely as well. One of dementia's cruelest aspects is how it strips away control. Finding ways to preserve dignity becomes an essential act of love. So you want to look for opportunities to support autonomy, like offering choices whenever possible, even if limited, red shirt or blue, tea or coffee. Ask for opinions and preferences and then honor them when feasible. Involve the person in decisions about their care. Speak about them respectfully, never talking over them. Protect their privacy during personal care and focus on abilities rather than limitations. My mom was always put together from head to toe. Makeup just so, jewelry coordinated, clothes chosen with intention. Now she doesn't seem to care much about it anymore. And watching this transformation kind of feels like losing another piece of who she was. Sometimes a flicker of her old preferences surfaces. She'll reach for a particular necklace or comment on a lipstick shade or something. And when these glimpses appear, I try to honor them. Might seem like superficial concerns, but they connect her to something deeper. Her sense of self and her dignity and her identity as the woman who never left the house without earrings. Viktor Frankl wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Finding meaning, even in suffering, it can transform into a source of strength. So look for sources of meaning unique to this experience. The opportunity to return the care once given to you. Deepening capacity for patience, presence, and compassion. Discovering new dimensions of love beyond intellectual connection. Learning to value being over doing. And finding unexpected gifts amid profound loss. This journey with mom has changed me in ways I'm still discovering. I've developed patience I never knew I possessed. I've learned to be fully present rather than always planning ahead. And I've discovered that love expresses itself differently, but no less powerfully when circumstances change. These, to me, have been unexpected gifts. Recorded family stories I might never have asked about. Deepened relationships with other family members through shared care concerns, meaningful connections with other families walking similar paths. Most significantly, though, I've had the opportunity to care for the woman who once cared for me. That's why I do it. That's the biggest reason, because she would do it for me. If it was me, she would be there, and she would be there every damn day. She would be there more than I am for her. There's meaning in being able to reciprocate, this chance to return even a fraction of what she gave me or would give me if the roles were different. Finding meaning doesn't erase all the difficulty or grief. There's still days when the losses overwhelm the hell out of me, and when I long for the mother who taught me to bake, to be there drinking wine with me and baking, the one who could always find the right words and all of that. But alongside that grief, I found deeper appreciation for what's still there. Her smile when she sees me, or her hand reaching for mine, the essence of her that persists. I don't know what lies ahead for mom and me. And at that time, I didn't know how many more Monday visits we would share, or how the disease would progress, or what further adaptations we'd need to make. But I did know, and I do know now, that even as the fog thickens, moments of clarity still break through. Moments that remind us both that love never fails. that connection remains possible when the words aren't there, and meaning can be found in the most challenging circumstances. Caring for someone with dementia is like tending to a once vibrant garden in early autumn. The colors fade away and the blooms kind of fall and everything gets a little limp, but beneath the surface, those roots, they still run really deep, and you may not always recognize the shape of what's growing, but your presence is the sunlight. It warms and it steadies and it brings comfort when the season begins to shift. Through all of that fog and that confusion and everything else, we continue to find each other. The hope is still there and the love is there. Changed, challenged, but it's still there, completely undefeated, right? Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're walking this journey yourself, I see you. I know how hard it is, and I hope that something in this episode gives you permission to celebrate the small victories, to redefine what meaningful means for you, and to take care of yourself without guilt at all. Please don't feel guilt at all. And to keep finding, pieces of hope, even on the darkest days. Support and contact info are in the show notes. Please join the Facebook group for a discussion, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.